is a supplementary screencast that I hope will take no more than about 15 minutes to help out those of you who struggled a little bit with the document by Bartolome de las Casas, The Devastation of the Indies. When we get an assignment, probably the first thing we should always look at here is the objectives, like what am I expected to do? And here it says that students will be able to read a historical document for understanding. So they want me to know what the subject is, like what the document what the document says. Analyze a historical document to make inferences valid to the historical context. So maybe that's not clear, but what it means is like what beyond the actual text of the document is this document saying? What conclusions can we draw that are beyond just what the document says? The way you do that is by using aspects of sourcing, such as the author who wrote the document, the context, the historical events surrounding it, the audience, and the purpose to draw conclusions about the document and how it's affected by those factors, like based on who the person this is written to and who's writing it. Can I tell what their purpose is? I don't expect you to be able to do these things right away. It'll be a process that'll build over several weeks, but we want to remember, read underneath the surface of a primary document, not just what it says, but what its purpose is or how it's affected by the biases of the author. So instructions, preview the questions, and then read the document. You can take notes on the side. I won't because I'm on a computer. And then answer the questions, and I will do that. So it wants me to know the CAPS categories. It wants me to know what is the context for this document, what is the subject of this document, or what does Las Casas say, who's the speaker and what do we know about him, who is the audience and what is the purpose of this document. Here I'm just going to read through the document, and as I think, I'll think aloud, and maybe that'll help you a little bit, and then I'll answer the questions. So first, we always want to look at the background. Bartolome de las Casas arrived in the New World in 1502 and became an encomendero, living off the labor of Indian slaves. Okay, so Las Casas came to the Americas, and he owned an encomenda, and so the Indians aren't like slaves like he owns them. They're more like people who constantly he keeps in debt so that they have to work for him. After being denied the sacrament of confession by Dominican friars, Las Casas had a change of heart, giving up his encomenda and returning to Spain to campaign against Indian enslavement. Okay, so that was true. He was a bad dude, but he could no longer take communion, so he changed and he decided he'd fight for these people's freedom, and he went back to Spain to do it. Then in 1523 he became a Dominican friar and dedicated the rest of his life to chronicling abuses committed against the Indians and trying to reform Spanish colonial policy. Wow, so he actually converts to become like a priest, and he writes down everything that's happened, and his purpose is to change, it says Spanish colonial policy, like the law, like what the laws are about Spain and its colonies. A brief account of the devastation of the Indies was a book that de las Casas wrote and sent back to the King of Spain. Okay, very helpful. That tells me right off the bat an awful lot about who the author or speaker is, and it tells me who the audience is, which is the King of Spain. Now I start to read the document. The Indies were discovered in the year 1492, blah, blah. Columbus sailed the blue in 1492. In the following year, a great many Spaniards went there with the intention of settling the land. 49 years have passed since the first settlers penetrated the land, the first so being claimed the largest and most happy island called Hispaniola. So he says, 49 years ago, Spaniards came here, and they settled, and in the last 49 years, a lot of Spaniards have moved here and taken land. So that's the first part of it. Of all the infinite universe of humanity, these Indians are the most innocent, the most devoid of wickedness and lying, the most obedient and faithful to their native masters and to the Spanish Christians whom they serve. Wow, this is very positive. So he says the people who live in the New World are devoid of wickedness. So that means they never do anything bad. They never lie. They're obedient and faithful to the Spanish Christians whom they serve. Let's see if he continues in this vein. They are by nature, they being the Indians, the most humble, patient, and peaceable, holding no grudges, free from embroilments, neither excitable nor quarrelsome. Wow. So not only are they faithful and innocent and never lie, they never fight, they never quarrel. They are also a poor people. So they not only possess a little, but they have no desire to possess worldly goods. Wow, and they don't want anything. They are very clean with alert, intelligent minds, docile and open to instruction, very apt to receive our Catholic doctrine, to be endowed with virtuous customs, and to behave in a godly fashion. Wow, his portrayal of the natives of the New World is that they are peaceful and devoid of wickedness, and they never lie, and they believe in the Catholic faith. This is a very positive picture. So, we start out. He says, 49 years ago, Columbus discovered the Americas. A lot of Spaniards have moved here. The people that they encountered were, without a doubt, the best people on earth. They are good Christians. They are good people. They are good servants. They do not lie. Okay, so we've got it so far. Let's see what he says next. Yet, into this land of meek outcasts, there came some Spaniards who immediately behaved like ravening wild beasts, wolves, tigers, or lions that had been starved for many days. That doesn't sound like it's good for the Indians to me, right? Like if they're like a lion or a tiger that hasn't been fed for many days and they're going to be hungry, they're going to tear them apart. They, and by this he means the Spaniards, are still acting like ravening beasts, killing, terrorizing, afflicting, torturing, and destroying the native peoples, doing all this with the strangest and most varied new methods of cruelty never seen or heard of before, and to such a degree that this island, once having a population of more than 3 million, has now a population of barely 200 persons. Whoa! Whoa! So, like, the whole point of this passage is contrast between the Indians, who are like these peaceful, good people, and the Spaniards, who are like wild beasts who've killed millions of the natives. But think back to it. De las Casas is not a native. He is not an Indian. He's a Spaniard. And so there's got to be a reason that he's portraying things this way. So if we go down, what is the context for this document? Well, Das Casas tells us, like almost in the first paragraph, that the context is the conquest of the New World by Spain and genocide against native populations. So the context here is that the Spaniards came and settled the New World, and now they're killing these people. What is the subject of this document? Like, what does it actually say? Since Columbus came to the Americas, many Spaniards have settled there. The native people are good. They don't lie, steal, or fight, and are good Christians. The Spaniards have been the opposite. They are like wild animals and have killed millions of natives. Kind of what he says. Those are the three things we talked about. Okay, so here we got to work a little bit from here on out to figure out what's going on. So who is the speaker? Well, the speaker is obviously Bartolome de las Casas, but what do we actually know about him? We know that he's a former Encanamida, which means that he enslaved the natives. We know that he rejected that life and became a fighter for the rights of natives. And we know that he wanted to change the law so that natives would be treated better. Okay. Who is the audience? Who is this document written for? Well, it's right there in the first little bit there where it says that Das Casas wrote this book and sent it back to the King of Spain. So the King of Spain is the audience for this. So here's what we know. Das Casas says the natives are very good and we are very bad, and we have killed 99% of the people who even live in Hispaniola. And we know that he has a purpose here, which is to change the law so that natives would be treated better. And that's related to the audience. Like, who's going to change those laws? Only the King of Spain can change them. So his purpose would be something like de las Casas is trying to persuade the King of Spain that he should pass laws that protect the native people. He does this by portraying the natives as good and innocent, and the Spaniards as violent and evil. Pretty good. You might not be able to do that yet. We're all going to get there.